Hello and welcome. I am Exit Light and this is my channel. Today we're gonna do another video in the series about Crater Lake, and this one is different than the previous video. I can't really say it's a little more lighthearted when we're talking about death, but it is a little stranger. A little more mysterious and weird. And in one of the cases, I don't think it's too early to say that it's kind of funny. All right, why don't we get started? On the other hand, before we do that, if you could give this video a thumbs up, I would appreciate it very much. And if you would share it with your friends and family and just about anybody, I don't care, that would be great. And if you'd like to be notified when my content goes live, go ahead and click that bell. And if you are on a laptop or a PC, on my channel's page, you'll see over there in the right of my header, there is a link to donate to this channel for my friend Rob and I to explore all the haunted things in the New England area, which ought to be, well, it won't be boring. All right, now let's get started. As I've told you before, that's the word I'm looking for, Crater Lake is a bright blue cistern of water in the long dormant volcano named Mount Mazama. It is in a caldera, and it is made of, this is interesting, pure rainwater. It is the deepest lake in the United States at 1,943 feet. They used to think that the lake didn't have a bottom. This area is a hotbed for strange disappearances, ghostly encounters, and legendary beasts. Bigfoot himself is known to show up here once in a while. Rangers once reported following a large, dark, putrid-smelling creature through the woods until it started throwing pine cones at them. The area is also home to at least 2 claimed slayings of Bigfoot. One was by a car, and according to the driver, the body was reportedly whisked away by the government, and one was by a train. The train conductors didn't report slamming into something huge that looked like Bigfoot because they were afraid that they would be accused of drinking on the job. Now I'm thinking, call it a bear. Whoops, think we hit a bear. Somebody goes and looks. There you go, it's Bigfoot. UFOs are no strangers to the area. In February of 1997, a jet pilot reported military aircraft pursuing UFOs above Crater Lake. That night, a loud sonic boom was heard all across western Oregon. There are strange lights that make appearances in the area. So, it's pretty well known for the people who live there, who live in Oregon and Washington, that this area is known for spooky and creepy and weird things. However, the Klamath Indians say that to gaze upon its splendid blue water is to invite death or lasting sorrow. The Modoc tribe, who lived on its borders for a millennia, knew the mountain before the eruption that caused it to become an empty caldera, which eventually became the lake. And they retain a very strict taboo against the area. They say it's evil. They say it's home to dark spirits. And they say that people disappear there. The Klamath hold the lake as sacred, believing it to be the crossroads of the spirit of above, Skell, which is a spirit of peace and goodness, and the spirit of below, Lao, the spirit of fire, darkness, and terror. The Klamath believed that a battle between these two created the lake, when the defeating the evil Lao, Skell collapsed the mountain on his portal to this world and covered it with clear water as a sign of everlasting peace. Skell cast Lao's limbs into the lake and tricked the water animals, which were faithful to Lao, into devouring them. But when the animals reached Lao's head, they recognized it as their master, and they would not touch it. It can still be seen today as a lone, steep cinder cone rising from the lake's waters, and it is now known as Wizard Island. And Lao's spirit is still said to make his home there. So, in other words, the Klamath's version of the devil lives in Crater Lake. Another Klamath legend says that the caldera was created when the Great Spirit collapsed the peak of the volcano onto a band of rebelling braves, burying them all in the act. Afterwards, the Great Spirit converted the ghosts of the victims into huge, long-armed dragons that could reach up to the crater's rim and drag down any warrior. These kidnapping dragons have also been described as giant crayfish in Klamath lore. Similar ghouls have been spotted even in modern times. A woman from Georgia, Maddie Hatcher, was rowing on the lake with her family when she said she saw something black and long swimming beneath their boat. She said she'd never been so scared in her life. She recalled that what she saw that day was a monster. To me, it looked like a dragon. I know why the Indians call that place Lost Lake. They say monsters live in it. She said this thing was at least a block long. I believe them. I know, she said, because I saw one there. And yet another legend has it that the fire spirits in the form of winged salamanders once haunted Wizard Island. These beings, the spirits of evil men doomed to suffer an eternity, penalized with torture for their earthly wrongdoings. I think we hit the jackpot, guys. Exit Light has figured out what she must have been in a previous life. This last bit may be chalked up to post-colonial Christianity rather than real old-school Klamath lore, but rangers at the park often observe campfires on Wizard Island, only to go out, row their boats over to the island, and find there to be no campfire, no flame at all, no smell of smoke, not a singed blade of grass. So whether the culprit is water monsters, Bigfoot, restless souls, or something else, an abnormal amount of people have disappeared in and around Crater Lake. The first settlers to find the lake were themselves investigating a mysterious disappearance. To be more specific, the treasure that went along with it. Every state has at least one lost cabin story with a treasure that was there and needs to be found. A quest for one led to the first sightings of Crater Lake by Europeans. In 1853, a party set out from Eureka, California to look for their lost friend, Set 'em Up. He had mysteriously vanished from his mining cabin nestled at the base of Mount Mazama. Set 'em Up always came into Eureka with more than enough gold to buy the whole saloon around. He would throw a little satchel of gold at the barkeep and holler, "Set 'em up," which is how he earned his nickname. His real name has been lost the time. His generosity also earned him the rabble of friends who fretted so much about their missing buddy's safety and the safety of that claim that they had a small idea of where the mine was. So, being his good and loyal friends, they should probably go find it and take care of it for him. After stocking up on supplies in Jacksonville, Oregon, they headed off to the little explored forests skirting Mount Mazama. While following the rough directions they had gotten from Setup, they hit a fork in the road. One party split to the left and one to the right, vowing to meet back up at that spot before nightfall. When the two parties split, the teams broke apart even further to cover more ground. Isaac Skeeters, who had gone on the right fork, suddenly came to a point where his horse refused to budge. Feeling curious, he dismounted to see what was blocking their way, and, much to his fright, he found himself standing on the sheer rim of Crater Lake. Disappointed that he'd obviously chosen the wrong path, he did take note of his grand discovery, and then he hurried back to the rendezvous point to see if anyone else had had better luck. When he reached the trail fork, a man named Hillman, who had taken the left path, rode up on his horse, waving his arms around. He was yelling that he had spotted a small, decrepit cabin on a stream coming from the shallow canyon. The two men began galloping through the forest to claim their fortune when Hillman's horse lost its footing on a rock and tumbled over the ridge of the canyon, taking Hillman with him. Both rider and horse died on impact, taking the location of the lost cabin with them. Despite their best efforts, Skeeter and his team couldn't find any trace of the little cabin by the creek. Soon they ran low on their provisions and they had to head home. And all they had found was this stupid lake. And although many have tried, no one has located that cabin to this day. Old Setup wasn't the last person to mysteriously disappear around Crater Lake, though. The next case comes from February 1911. B.B. Bukowski was a photographer who traveled from Oregon City to take the very first winter photographs of the lake. He got there just fine. He set up camp. He even built a snow cave in case of an emergency and stocked it with food. Then, after he successfully took the photos, he disappeared. A massive blizzard hit Crater Lake. Bukowski's sled and shovel were recovered 1 mile, well, actually a little more than a mile, almost a mile and a half, from the rim. But there was no trace of his body ever found. Why would he leave the safety of his camp during a blizzard? And how did he manage to get outside the range of search radius during a horrific storm? Remains to this day unexplained. Although later that year, a very angry visitor reported that Indian guides would take you to the rim of the lake, the rim of the volcano, and while they waited for you, they would turn their backs towards the mountain for some reason. And maybe they knew something that Bukowski didn't. And lastly, this one You guys, I don't think it's too soon. On July 4th in 1947, a park visitor known as Mr. Cornelius suddenly and without warning handed his startled wife all of his possessions, including his billfold and his watch. And he sat down on a snowshoot near the old lake trail and began to slide to the lake as fast as he could to attempt suicide. And if that wasn't bad enough, the fall only broke his leg, so Cornelius drug himself to the water's edge and proceeded to drown himself, which I think is safe to say that might have been the worst hike a man and wife ever went on. I'm just saying. He wanted to get away from his wife pretty bad. Or maybe that's one of the spontaneous suicides. Thank you for coming to my channel. And I hope you're enjoying this series on Crater Lake and the strange and the weird and the mysterious. We have more coming. And I'll see you next time. Good night.